Hello, my name is Mark Palmieri, author of She Danced with Lightning, my daughter's struggle with epilepsy and her boundless will to live. I am so honored to be part of this amazing conference today while I'm coming to you from the comfort of my small home office in Queens, New York. I've been a writer, mainly a playwright, since my mid-20s, and anything I think about writing begins with a real-life experience wherein I learn something, usually after being wrong about something. It's kind of a classical writer's approach. I believe that there's a story to be told, a story that's worth hearing or reading when the main character changes, when someone recognizes something about himself, about the world, about life. Now, despite Anna's decade of epilepsy, from her 5th month to her brain surgery at 12 years old, I had not written at all about epilepsy until this recent book. As everyone in attendance here knows all too well, epilepsy certainly can provide a storyteller ample, vivid, dramatic situations, high anxiety and tension, and hours of triumph too, but sadly many more hours of misery. But I didn't see a story in our situation, not yet. I saw only a persistent and possibly lifelong looming horror, the biggest change likely to be too simple in its awfulness to put a reader or an audience through, which would be the loss of our daughter. Now, not 2 weeks before her surgery, which would require a craniotomy and a lesionectomy, she was on 5 medications, and in the midst of a spiraling cluster of seizures that for over months would relent not even for an hour. Anna insisted on performing in her dance company's annual recital in front of 400 people at a local college. She insisted she would walk out on that stage and perform. The seizures were nearly nonstop at this point, everything from tonic-clonic to partial complex, myoclonic to subclinical seizures that would pull all feeling from her legs. There were days where she couldn't walk across the room without being likely to fall down. The drugs she was on made her nearly incomprehensible verbally. My sole interest at that point was just keeping her alive long enough for the surgery, on our sofa, the rescue med ready, safe for whatever safe had come to mean at that point. Her willingness, even her desire to perform in public, most likely to create a ghastly spectacle in front of her family and friends and all the hundreds of unsuspecting onlookers, seemed completely absurd to me. I figured it was a product of the haze of side effects and cognitive blur of all those meds. So I said, "No way, Anna, no way. You're not in the show, you're staying right here." "But I worked for this all year," she said to me on her knees, sobbing and shivering. "Well, things have changed, Anna, clearly. Your epilepsy's gotten worse. Next year there'll be another chance." My wife overruled me, as usual, and the next day she, Anna, and her sister went to the show. And Anna went on. The company teachers stood in the wings. Her fellow dancers stood in the wings, ready to pounce. And I was at home, angry and brooding, waiting for that phone call that I knew was coming. "Mark, the show's paused. Anna went down on stage. You got to come get her." But the call that did come hours later was that Anna had indeed done the show, 5 dances flawlessly. It would be the one day in over 2 months that a seizure didn't come. That very night she had 6 during sleep. And that was my change. The change I was talking about when I began. In theater, it would be called the recognition scene. I'd learned a lesson. So there was a story to write. It was about a man with the unearned privilege of perfect health who tried to say no to his warrior daughter, who daily faces this insidious, destructive, and deadly condition, who insisted in her worst hours on living her life. Next year, I said, "You'll have another chance, Anna." But we all know no one can say that to someone with epilepsy and be as sure as I tried to sound. So I wrote about epilepsy, about how my daughter changed me. And I've come to see that this is my way of promoting awareness. If I had deeper pockets. If I maybe I'd start a foundation. If I was a doctor, I'd devote myself to neurology. But I'm a writer, so it'll be storytelling, and I hope it makes a difference, a small difference. So for the last 3 months or so, since the book's release, I've been deep in this world of promoting epilepsy awareness and making new friendships in this vast network of good, as my friend Pat Gibson of the Epilepsy Alliance North Carolina calls you all. I've also been answering for myself, what do I hope for from more awareness? And for me, it's what awareness leads to. From what I've seen with my own eyes, awareness leads to interest, to people learning what epilepsy is, learning about what those loved ones in their lives, and they all have one or will have one, are facing. Interest then leads to demystification, as much as understanding the basics of what their friend or classmate, teammate with asthma or diabetes or an allergy may or may not experience in an event. One can understand epilepsy. The demystification then, and this is the key for me, can lead to connection. Demystification, destigmatization of what has come for generations of the invisible nature of this disorder, of the misunderstandings and myths and misconceptions about it. Open people to new and deeper relationships, and the freedom of those who face this challenge to speak of it, those who want to help, to ask about it, those who care for a loved one with it, to feel less alone. In the more than 10 years of Anna's epilepsy, I can recall we exulted any time epilepsy was mentioned anywhere by anyone. We felt so alone. On TV, Sanjay Gupta on CNN about the CBD, we were over the moon. We saw David Axelrod, Obama's campaign manager on TV at a fundraiser. We were bolstered to expect more progress. Another parent we might encounter with a child who has epilepsy. My God, that was deliverance from the dark solitude we came to feel. Awareness, perhaps in my bit of work, through a story told, I hope and pray will be my part of bringing more. This is where my professional life comes to a tidy little convergence. I'm an assistant professor of communications at Mercy College in Dobbs Ferry, and one of the areas communication scholars explore is the natural inborn need for personal relationships. A human being requires fellowship. It's scientifically established that there are health benefits to meaningful personal connections, actual bodily health benefits. Epilepsy leaves so many of us in the shadows, uncertain as to what's welcome in others out of us. I remember many people asking me about how Anna was doing over the years, of course, and I wanted nothing more than to be able to report a quick, positive rundown of how some med was working adequately or whatever, or so that we could move the topic back to their own child. I thought speaking of her condition could only be a negative, depressing, a cry for help, and I didn't want to do that to anyone. Who would? So more alone I became. Now, this is my hope with the book. This is my hope for all the incredible work you all do promoting epilepsy awareness. In my own story, the message is that our children must live. They want life and a world that knows epilepsy as it knows diabetes or allergies, asthma, autism, name it. It's the world they deserve. We're not there yet. And for those with epilepsy and their loved ones, the message also is there is fellowship. There are others, so many others, and we must never feel alone. I have an example of what all this means to me, of what awareness can do. My daughter had nocturnal seizures. She could never have sleepovers anywhere for obvious reasons. But we could have kids at our place, only it wasn't exactly what they'd imagine a sleepover being. Our strategy was let them fall asleep together, then sneak in and snatch Anna out of the room and keep her with us through the night, leaving the guests peacefully alone. One time, she invited a friend, Sandra, 10 years old, for a sleepover. Now, all her friends knew that she had epilepsy, and not one of them, bless these kids and their parents, ever made an issue out of it at school or anywhere else. But Sandra's awareness led to interest. She researched. Before coming to the sleepover, she and her mom read up about seizures and how to respond to one on the internet. She researched and wanted to be ready in case something happened. And it actually did. Just an hour or so into their falling asleep, before we came in to get Anna, she did stir into a seizure without our noticing. And Sandra rose, moved to Anna in her bed, and held her through it, and then let us know discreetly. We told Anna the next day what her friend had done, and as Sandra was no different toward Anna in the morning than she'd been the day before, Anna could feel, not help to feel that she was not only protected, but loved and accepted by this friend. And to boot, Sandra, of course, felt she'd done the right thing by her pal. A friendship, therefore, deepened by this awareness and this interest, this demystification and connection. Now, there's another major outcome, of course. Connection between people on this basis also has the enormous benefit of information sharing. The more we normalize this part of our public discourse, the more likely it is that one may come to hear about a new approach that's working for someone. A diet, an accommodation at school, a device, a medication, a team of doctors, whatever. We can't only rely on the one doctor that we see, right? A doctor with multiple patients. We must rely on this army of aware, interested, and connected people who share a great need and benefit from their own research and observations and sometimes downright accidental encounter with an answer. That's exactly how we ended up in the hands of our surgeons, whose work now has kept Anna seizure-free for 3.5 years. Someone mentioned a name of a doctor that she knew from her work as a lawyer. Ironically, this happened at the dance studio one day. We had made an appointment just to see, and when things went bad, we were rushed in and met with those doctors. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you for being these essential things: epilepsy awareness, interest, demystification, and connection for the world. We starved for that for all those years, so alone and scared and so sad. I hope to be a help in the ways I know how, and I believe things can get better. And thanks to you, they already have, enormously so. There's more ahead from me, and I know from all of you. Well, thank you for having me.